Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago's current supply of passport booklets is almost exhausted, with concerns now emerging that the government has instructed immigration officials to slow the rate of issuance as it tries to prevent the country from running out of critical travel documents travel documents entirely. Now, a quick update. The Minister of Homeland Security says, oh, that is not true. That is a lie. There's no shortage. Okay, then, Roger Alexander. We're supposed to just believe you. The government continues to fail to show us any sort of actual evidence, any sort of documents to verify most of their claims being made recently, Most of their claims being recently. I would have never, ever, ever thought UNC would have ended up just like the PNM and even worse. Guardian media, I also call Kakash media, but at this point in time, I have more issues with the government than the media right now. Guardian media understands that the remaining stock has fallen to a critically low level, and while a source familiar with the situation could not confirm the exact number of passports currently available, the warning was clear. Unless new supplies arrive soon, there may be no booklets left to issue to citizens. Now, as I said before, Roger Alexander went on to say that I think about 40-something thousand will be coming in September. But maybe that's just the dregs. That's what remains from the company that was supplying us for nearly 2 decades. Roger, after that 40,000, we're gonna get because the government hasn't approved any new company, any new agency to take over the responsibility. Up to now, at least we haven't heard anything. And I heard it is a long process, a very long process to be able to go. It takes a whole long process to be able to produce these booklets. Very long process. So when you get a new company that isn't accustomed with doing this, it's like they have to start from scratch. Unlike the Canadian, I think it was a bank or whatever, right? That had this job for this position for nearly 2 decades. I'm telling you, since 2007, they would have been accustomed to it. For us, it would have been easy, even if they were going to have to transition to the new e-passports or whatsoever. Information obtained by Guardian media, however, suggests the problem was not unexpected. People with knowledge of the situation say the Immigration Division raised concerns with the Ministry of Homeland Security on more than one occasion since the new administration took office last year. But you see, they were too busy playing games and raising taxes, fees, and fines and glorifying and worshipping the police to do their jobs. Warning that passport stocks were declining and that urgent action was needed to avoid a shortage. And besides all those different games, they were also too busy playing tit for tat with PNM and cancelling this contract and cancelling that contract and closing this down and closing that down because it was PNM now, right? And we used to condemn the PNM for doing that, That's the thing about it. The ministry was informed in mid-2025 that there was 1 year's worth of booklets, which could be around 80 to 100,000 documents. However, months later, the country is now facing what officials feared: dwindling supplies and uncertainty over when the next major shipment will arrive. As I said before, Roger Alexander said about 40,000 coming in September. As I said, most likely that is the last batch. Sources indicate that the current challenge stems from a procurement process that began under the previous administration but was never completed. PNM never got the contract signed. Guardian media was told that in 2023, the government went out to tender for the supply of Trinidad and Tobago passports. Following the process, Canadian banknote company CBN, which has supplied the country's passports since 2007, I'm telling you, nearly 2 decades, next year would have made it 20 years, was awarded a contract in October 2024 to continue providing the documents. As I was telling my relatives last night, why on earth would you want to change this company that has been responsible for producing these passports for such a long space of time? They have the experience. They have never been any kind of serious complaints about any flaws or anything like that in the passport booklets. Why would you change it? No, UNC. A matter of fact, it's 2007. So therefore, when you were there between 2010 and 2015, they were also providing those booklets back then too. So why you didn't have a problem with them back then, but you have it now? Because you're mindful of spite this time around. It's a vengeance you want, and yes. The company was expected to supply TNT's next generation of passports, including the move toward electronic passports, which contain an embedded chip and enhanced security features. So it would have been easy for them to transition people, because they would have already been accustomed to producing our passports. So it would have just been to upgrade it now. You understand? Common sense, people. My Lord, boy. However, while the award was made, the final contract was not signed before the 2025 general election, sadly. Right? And people will say, oh, PNM this and PNM that. I don't support the PNM. But once again, people, this was the same agency that was used under UNC as well. It's since 2007. So it has nothing really to do with the PNM. Otherwise, they would have been removed when Kamala was in office between 2010 to 2015. This is all about spite and political games. Sources close to the process explained that the legal review and contract finalization stage was underway, but a change in administration occurred before this agreement was formally executed. As a result, although CBN received the award, a new long-term contract was completed. No new long-term contract was completed, No new long-term contract was completed. Guardian Media understands that by mid-2025, concerns were already being raised internally that the existing supply would only last approximately another year if no new contract agreement was finalized. I'm telling you, boy, I would have never thought UNC would have been putting us through this kind of drama, you know. Never. The Immigration Division, according to those familiar with the discussions, repeatedly flagged the risk that the country could face a shortage by mid-2026. I don't know what the UNC people would be saying, oh, this is PNM propaganda. Matter of fact, all know they say this PNM propaganda. Guardian Media understands that both the Chief Immigration Officer and Deputy Chief Immigration Officer were sent on leave for approximately 4 months this year. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that at a time like this? When you know there's a shortage, when you know there are issues that need to be resolved. Why? Lord Father, boy, Kamala, what you're really doing to this country, madam? During that period, the issue of the country's passport supply remained unresolved. But they're going to leave. Guardian Media was told that during this time, a directive was also given to delay the production of passports to applicants. Of course, I think Roger is denying that though. Yeah. We're supposed to just believe him because he's a righteous man that can never lie. Just like Alistair Guevara and Kamala. The waiting time for the issuance of passports has almost quadrupled in the interim as the government attempts to manage the low stock. CNC3 even showed some snapshots last night, some screenshots. People saying that it really is taking longer than usual. Those familiar with the situation warn that if more citizens begin applying for expedited passports because of fears over the shortage, the remaining stock could be depleted even faster. That way they pay extra money to get it faster. Right. Meanwhile, in March 2026, sources say the previous letter of award to Canadian banknote was cancelled. When I heard that, I'm telling you, boy, I felt so disappointed. So angry and disappointed. Why would you cancel such an important contract before knowing for sure that you have another one in place to replace it one time, immediately? Effectively leaving TNT without a long-term passport supplier. That is when UNC wins, everybody wins. How are we winning with this? The government subsequently moved toward a new procurement process, including an expression of interest, inviting companies to indicate their willingness to supply passports. But why you didn't do that before you terminated the contract? You're telling me you couldn't start that process without terminating this one? So what? Have some law in Trinidad where you must terminate a contract before you start seeking for new suppliers, seeking out new suppliers? You tell me, So what kind of law is that? Because you're leaving the country in limbo. However, those familiar with passport procurement warn that selecting a new supplier is not a simple process. I'm telling you, I heard it online already. And yet to go and cancel the one that we already had and had for nearly 2 decades. The EOI stage must be followed by evaluation, shortlisting, a request for proposals, further assessment, contract negotiations, and then final approval. Contacted yesterday, Minister of Homeland Security, Roger Alexander confirmed that government was moving ahead with plans to transition from the current machine-readable passports to electronic passports. I don't have no issue with that. Point is, why cancel the contract when you know you don't have anyone to replace them? However, he did not directly answer questions about how many passport booklets remain in stock. Well, that was an earlier report, as I said before last night. They did say, I think he said that, I don't think he said how much were in stock still, but he did say a batch coming in September. And the thing about it is, they didn't announce that they have a new supplier, so most likely it's from the same Canadian company. And that's what I'm showing you. But that's what I'm assuming, most likely that the dregs, that remained under the contract. My lord, or probably some short little extension they were given. Instead of just approving them, oh Lord, they supplied us for nearly 2 decades. It was all a problem by UNC, boy. My lord, boy. However, he did not directly answer questions about how many passport booklets remain in the stock. As I said, there's an update to that. How long the current supply is expected to last, when additional booklets will arrive. Well, I said he said now that it will be somewhere in September. I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or whether a directive was given to slow the processing of passports to preserve the remaining supply. From what I heard last night, he denies that took place. We're supposed to just believe him because he is Roger Alexander. Yes, the righteous one of Trinidad and Tobago. Just like Guevara. We would have real righteous ones in Trinidad and Tobago, Only members of the TTPS and the UNC government. Asked about reports that TNT was close to running out of passports and that concerns had previously been brought to the ministry's attention, Alexander pointed to the planned transition to e-passport. My lord, that man definitely went P&M school, because that is not the point. It's not about transitioning. It's about, even though you're transitioning, you're supposed to have a supply there ready for the transition. You understand, Roger Alexander? You must stay in P&M school for about what, 10 years? My response. This is what happens when you appoint a functional illiterate to hold one of the most powerful positions in an administration. Kamala, what have you done? Why would you put someone like Roger Alexander to hold one of the most powerful positions in your cabinet, in your administration? What were you thinking, madam? What were you thinking? What on earth was Tyrant Camps thinking when she gave Roger that job? He canceled the body cameras for cops and also terminated a contract with the company we rely on to manufacture those passport booklets now. In spite of the P&M being well known for making hasty and ridiculous decisions due to their hatred for the UNC, I never heard of these types of failures occurring in the past. They're doubling everything, including P&M's ridiculous decisions. That's what Kamala doing. Kamala double fines, fees, taxes, doubling the corruption in the TTPS, right? Well, doubling the abuse of power in the TTPS, and now doubling making bad decisions. Everything that P&M did, she come and double it. The bad things that P&M did, she come and double it. Why on earth would you cancel a contract with a supplier before ensuring that another company can immediately begin production of such an important booklet? As I said before, you telling me is there really a law here in Trinidad that prevents you from seeking a new supplier before terminating the contract with the one that you already have? Who does that? Does any company do that? Does any company does something like that? Have you ever heard about that? If I have a business and I have a supplier, right? But let's just say, okay, let's just say for example, I have a supplier giving me a certain brand of rice. And I say, okay, you know what? I'm fed up with selling this rice. I don't find the quality that good or whatsoever. So I want a new supplier. Am I going to terminate my contract with this supplier before I find a new one? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. So why on earth would the government do something like that? To make matters worse, it's very clear to the mass population that Roger is the actual Prime Minister of TNT. I'm telling you, honestly speaking, this man can do no wrong. Kamala never holds him accountable for his actions. And this man is making very serious decisions that is adversely affecting our country's reputation, especially because of the TTPS. So I wanted to say, who continues to act like a police officer instead of a servant of we the people? The man does not behave like a Minister of Homeland Security or National Security. The man still behaves as though he's a police officer. That's what he's doing. And therefore, that is why, in my opinion, the UNC is not in government, it's the TTPS is in government. Kamala is destroying both the UNC and our country because of her alliance with that evil man. God have mercy on this country, I'm telling you. I don't understand what is the reason for Kamala's loyalty to Roger Alexander. God alone knows. But Madam Prime Minister, God sees and knows all. And he's going to hold you accountable for your actions. Because you're not just destroying Trinidad and Tobago. You're destroying the only other viable option we had as a political party. The UNC has been destroyed because of your ridiculous decisions in the second term in office.
Weather report for Trinidad and Tobago. Wednesday, July 8, 2026. The weather will be partly cloudy to cloudy, hazy and breezy with a 60% medium chance of heavy showers or thunderstorms developing from late morning to mid-afternoon. The day will see a maximum temperature around 26 degrees Celsius to 29 degrees Celsius. It will feel muggy with humidity up to 90%. Winds are coming from the east to southeast between 10 to 50 kilometers per hour. Keep an eye out for gusty winds and street or flash flooding during intense downpours. Landslips are also possible in prone areas. Additionally, a mild to moderate concentration of Saharan dust is expected in the atmosphere. If you are sensitive to dust, take the necessary health precautions. The night will settle down to be partly cloudy with a light breeze. Temperatures will drop to a low of 24 degrees Celsius. There is only a minor lingering 25% chance of light showers. If you are heading out to sea, conditions are forecast to be moderate with wave heights reaching 1.5 meters to 2.5 meters in open waters. Sheltered areas will stay between 1.0 meters to 1.5 meters but will become choppy near any heavy downpours.
Regional news now, more locals and foreigners are buying homes in Barbados because the market is growing fast. Tourism is up and more people want to live and work on the island, and that is good news for them, of course. Increasing revenue, and which is really an important thing, especially for a small island like that. And they don't have oil, they don't have an energy industry like we have here in Trinidad and Tobago, so they depend a lot in foreign investment and tourism. This boom has caused property prices to rise steadily over the last year, though, and that will kind of affect the citizens, though, maybe in a negative way. You can't really, you can't win in this world, really, you know. One way something will start to be better, and in another way, starts to affect other individuals. However, top real estate leaders are worried about the lack of strong laws. Right now, anyone can call themselves a real estate agent without a proper license. Ooh, Papa. Now that's a problem. Unlicensed agents often do not check property titles or follow local financial laws. This makes it easy for buyers to get scammed or end up with massive legal fees. Industry groups want the government to pass strict new rules to lock out fake agents and keep the island's reputation safe. Sounds like a good idea. Mia Motley, get the job done, please. International news now. French President Emmanuel Macron and Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara al-Julani, also known as al-Julani, a terrorist in his suit. Yes, he was wanted, you know. He had, I think, $1 million bounty on him, you know. met in Damascus on July 7, 2026 to sign major economic and agricultural agreements. This historic event was the first visit by a major Western European leader to Syria since the 2024 fall of Bashar al-Assad. During the state visit, 2 bomb explosions went off in central Damascus near the French leader's hotel and injured at least 18 people. What a wonderful place to visit, eh? All the jihadists in Trinidad and Tobago, go and visit there, man. Wonderful place. Macron was safe inside the presidential palace at the time, and the scheduled meetings continued as planned. 2 leaders signed several agreements to help rebuild Syria's economy with the help of French business leaders. Yeah, everybody started to make friends with this terrorist. Trump too. Trump loves him. A terrorist, you know, a known terrorist that had a bounty on his head. Trump loves that man now. France agreed to help restructure the Syrian central bank and look into offshore energy projects with the company Total Energies. That name sounds familiar, but the French shipping company CMA-CGM signed a deal to manage air cargo at Damascus airport, and Syria prepared to acquire 8 Airbus planes. Additionally, France promised to return 51 million euros confiscated from the Assad family and send back 23 ancient artifacts that had been stuck in Paris since 2011. I wonder what all that money is going to be used for. Fund terrorism, most likely. The man is a terrorist. What do you think he's going to do? Both nations also agreed to officially appoint and exchange ambassadors soon to fully restore diplomatic ties. It's a pappy show, as we call it here in Trinidad and Tobago. It's a big joke. You don't make deals with terrorists. And that's exactly what Trump and these other European leaders are doing at this point in time.
A sign of the changing times with the remnants of recent history in full view. French President Emmanuel Macron landed in Syria ahead of the NATO summit in Ankara. His visit marks the first time a major Western leader has stepped foot in Syria since the 13-year civil war, which culminated in Ahmed al-Sharaa leading the coup to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. While many Western leaders have been cautious regarding al-Sharaa and his background in Islamist extremism, Macron and France have been urging their allies to drop sanctions against Syria and allow a stream of investment to help rebuild the country. This was the primary goal of Macron's visit, with the two signing deals on trade and cooperation.
La France, là aussi, vous accompagnera.
France will stand with you. Syria will be given back more than 50 million euros seized from assets illegally acquired by the family of the former dictator. We were the first to pursue this legal action, and the first to see it through to the end. We will continue wherever justice can be done. These funds will be returned to the Syrian people to finance concrete development projects across the country.
Al-Sharaa was happy for his country not only getting a financial boost, but also a diplomatic one.
I am also pleased to announce today that we have agreed to begin the process of exchanging resident ambassadors between Damascus and Paris as soon as possible, as a step toward restoring diplomatic relations to their full normal status.
The Syrian president also asked for France's support regarding a historic ally of theirs.
Our firm position is that achieving genuine stability requires an international commitment to compel Israel to abide by the 1974 disengagement agreement and to fully withdraw from all areas it has occupied since December 8th. We strongly condemn these systematic attacks, which undermine the security of the entire region. We look to France to play an active role in halting this escalation and ensuring respect for international law and agreements.
But their meeting was overshadowed by another incident in Damascus. 18 people were wounded in twin explosions outside the hotel where Macron was staying. The French president was in the Syrian presidential palace at the time and was unharmed. Whilst the originators of the blasts are yet to be confirmed, al-Sharaa has made an effort to unify various militant factions in Syria. And this event, during the exact time Syria is trying to align itself closely with the West, is a timely reminder of the work still to do.
Bible quote of the day. James 5:7-10. A call to patient endurance. James addresses believers facing hardship and injustice. He urges them to wait with steady hope for the Lord's return, using everyday and historical examples to show what that patience looks like in practice. The passage. Be patient, then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains. You too, be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. Don't grumble against one another, brothers and sisters, or you will be judged. The judge is standing at the door. Brothers and sisters, as an example of patience in the face of suffering, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.